we're going to start with the fighting between the Lebanese army and Islamic militants in the Palestinian refugee camp outside of Tripoli.
Oh, thank God. This is uplifting.
No, but here's why this is a great story. I mean, it's a terrible story, but it's a great story. So, basically, a little background. It's Islamic militants against Lebanese forces here in this camp near Tripoli. What happened over the weekend was Lebanese forces, they raided a building near the city, right? Because they thought some of these Islamicists were there. And a big fight ensued. They got fired on from outside the building. 22 soldiers died, 10 militants. Now the fighting, the militants are formed the Fatah al-Islam, is what they say, and they say it's a terrorist group, of course, affiliated with Al-Qaeda.
Yeah.
Look, they're probably right, but I don't trust anybody now about that, right?
No, I don't believe it. I mean, I'm going to have to do more research on it to see if that's true or not. It's not that that it's inconceivable. It certainly could be true. But first of all, now any Muslim group that is not with one of our allies is immediately labeled a terrorist group and immediately linked to Al-Qaeda, true or untrue. So we'll look into it and we'll figure out if that's
my hunch is
right or just
they
propaganda.
may well be. Look, there's some. They're unquestionably Islamic militants. That is clear. But anyway, that's not what's important. So the Lebanese. I mean, why? It's not why I found the story so interesting. The camp, the refugee camp, was called Nar al-Bared, right? And so basically, a camp has this story here says 22,000. I saw on NPR where it's this one says 30,000. This ABC story says 30. NPR story says 22,000. So somewhere in that range, right? Now, 27 soldiers, 15 militants have died in violence yesterday. Worst internal fighting since Lebanon's civil war, which ended in 1990. So basically, in what the Lebanese army is doing, because they say that the Islamic militants are holed up in the camp, which I'm sure is true, right? Mm-hmm. Since 1969, there has been an agreement, the Arab Accord, where the army cannot enter the Palestinian refugee camps. The army cannot go in. They say they know where these guys are, right? Mm-hmm. Where they are in the camps, but they're not allowed to go in. Mm-hmm. So they're bombing it. Massive artillery shelling of this camp that they're not allowed to enter, when they could at least try, perhaps, to go in and get them out of where they are so that maybe they wouldn't kill all these civilians in the camp, who are, of course, I don't know how many are dead. It's apparently only 2 so far. But, I mean, they're terrified. They can't move around because their camp is getting shelled. And at the time of the accord, like, the Lebanese army didn't really shell anybody. Back in 1969, that wasn't an issue. But the Lebanese government is now interpreting it like, and we know we can't go in the camps, but we can lob giant bombs from far away.
Well, Ben, I don't know if you know this, but technically in international law, bombs don't count.
I didn't realize that, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't. You're not entering a country if only if you're bombing it. You know who set that precedent, by the way? Israel and the United States.
Yeah, of course.
Because we bombed the living crap out of everybody and go, we didn't enter. What are you talking about? We just dropped a lot of bombs on their asses.
By the way, the Palestinian factions, of course, they still carry weapons, it says here, inside the camps, despite the UN Security Council resolution calling for all militias in Lebanon to be disarmed. So anyway, that's obviously a complicated story, but I was struck by the shelling and not the raiding.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. Look, any Islamic militants are not going to be friends of mine in terms of they're probably going to destabilize. They're probably looking to destabilize Lebanon. They won't work with Hamas probably. Hezbollah probably, because Hezbollah is Shiite and they appear to be Sunnis. But this isn't helping Lebanon at all, and probably the Lebanese army is being somewhat prudent by not entering on the ground, even though it's a goofy distinction. All that being said, we got to stop the worldwide trend of bombing people and saying, no, it's okay, it doesn't count.